Thank you, Senator Hawley. Senator Tuberville, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for your service. Thanks for being here today. I know it's been a long day. Dr. Call, I want to talk a little bit about the Doha Agreement and the timeline. I would think that you would say there was probably around 4 main parts of the Doha Agreement. One was being a ceasefire permanent and comprehensive. Another condition was withdrawal of American troops, April the 12th, as President Biden said, September the 11th. We've talked about that. How long was it before the Taliban violated the terms of the Doha Agreement, in your mind?
I think as General Mingus has already testified, from the very beginning, the only part of the agreement they stuck with was not attacking U.S. forces. The rest of the agreement they did not stick with. Right.
May the 1st, they did some damage, obviously, over in Afghanistan. Now, you were in your seat April 27th. Given the Taliban broke their end of the deal so quickly, did you change your policy assessment on May the 1st?
Well, by the time I came into office, the decision had already been made. So
yeah, but did you change? Did you have a change?
My position, which I testified to during my confirmation, was that we should have a conditions-based withdrawal. My personal position never changed, but by the time I came into office, the president had already made his decision, and that wasn't going to be relitigated.
But in the first full month, they kept breaking their promises, and I got a couple of slides here I just want to show you. Okay. Did things get better on your second month? In June, the Taliban, they captured 69 districts in June, and it was starting to ramp up. Not only did they capture 69 districts, but that month the Taliban captured 700 trucks, Humvees, dozens of vehicles, and all that kind of stuff. Did you rethink your policy at that time, given how badly it was ramping up? Did you give your preference upstream, so to speak, to the people that were needed to listen?
So you are right that the security situation deteriorated in June. It got worse in July, and obviously it got catastrophically worse in August. We were focused on executing the retrograde because that was the direction from the President of the United States.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to July. How many districts did the Taliban capture in July? You remember? I got it.
Not off the top of my head, but I have no reason to disbelieve.
I'll give it for 64. Okay, 64.
Map behind you.
Yeah. The President said on July the 8th, quote, "I am briefed daily on the battlefield updates," end quote. So President Biden knew how badly it was going. It was ramping up in Afghanistan, and yet we gave up Bagram Airfield that month, correct?
General Miller's plan was for the retrograde, called for us to give up Bagram in early July.
Right, right. By the end of the 3rd month on the job, the Taliban had entered the capitals of Helmand and Herat, and they controlled 223 districts. Dr. Call, you know how many districts there are in Afghanistan?
Well, by that time, it must have been more than half the districts in the country.
So there's 407 total, and there's 223 districts that they had overtaken. So let's talk about the 4th month on the job. August, after 3 straight months of losses and bloodshed, did the OSD policy suggest changing course, how bad it was getting?
The president had directed that we leave Afghanistan. There was no set of deliberations about
talk back and forth.
So there were conversations about whether we should position forces to provide more close air support, and we did that in the July-August timeframe. We put a couple hundred of additional forces into HKIA to do personnel recovery and other things so we could do more airstrikes. But the course of the policy was set in April, and we carried out that policy.
But in August, it got worse, and the fighting was ramping up. To recap, in 3.5 months that you were there due to this administration's, I guess we can call it incompetence, we saw a complete collapse of Afghanistan in that short period of time. Wasting 20 years of blood and treasure. Since President Biden took office, America, to me, is less safe. Our allies are less safe, and we once again have to confront radical Islamic terrorism somewhere down the road. I don't understand those 4 months of how we can make a timeline and then we can get away from it. Gentlemen, it's just a couple of quick for you. From the beginning of Afghanistan 20 years ago, can you tell me what time of the year the Taliban traditionally counter-attacked our forces?
There is the summer fighting season, which typically starts in the spring. They plan throughout the winter. They build up supplies and those kinds of things. It typically starts in April, May, and runs till the fall. But that's not to suggest that there isn't fighting during the winter.
Yeah.
It does subside a little bit, but given the mountain passes and snow and the challenges with moving about, that's typically why the fighting does subside a little bit in the wintertime.
So it wouldn't surprise you that any of our guys would say, listen, we're going to have more fighting in the summer, right? Because of the heavy snows. So why didn't we reduce our presence in the fall and the winter when the weather was worse? I'm ask both of you real quick. I know my time is up. Why wouldn't we have that in that time of year other than the time of the year when they were ready to fight? They were all away from home, congregating, ready to do whatever they needed to do to fight and take over Afghanistan. Why would we not do it? Was there any talk, Dr. Call? Let's go with you first.
Well, the timeline for the departure was set in
Well,
April.
I know that.
So I can't, and I wasn't part of those deliberations, so it's not a satisfying answer for you, Senator, but I don't know the rationale beyond that. The president calculated that the longer we stayed beyond the deadline established by the Doha Agreement, the higher at risk our forces would be.
Yeah. General, was there any military talk on that you can remember?
So there was, and as you know, as the chairman, General Miller and General McKenzie, I was not present with their personal recommendations, but as they testified, their personal feelings is that the 2,500 should have stayed and it should have become a conditions-based withdrawal. But as Dr. Call pointed out, I think what the president was wrestling with was the 1 May and which was extended towards the end of the summer kind of deadline and the potential for the recommencing of hostilities with the Taliban had we stayed any longer than. I think that was the strategic dilemma.
Thank you both for your service and time. I apologize, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.